Welcome, everyone, to our third annual IMMERSEcon. We are so thrilled to have you with us today. I'm Misty Wilson, Chief Learning Officer here at IMMERSE, and it's really an honor to kick off this event. I want to start by thanking our entire team for the incredible work that they've put into making this conference possible. A special shout out to Dr. Sophie Delsaux, our English and French program manager, for her contributions, and an especially big thank you to Dr. Tricia Thrasher, our Director of Research, who led all of our organizing efforts, made sure that all of the elements from the littlest detail to the largest were taken care of. We really would not be here without her. So thank you, Tricia. Before we dive in, I'd love to get a sense of who's in the audience today. So we're going to put up a little poll, and if you wouldn't mind just taking a moment to respond and let us know who you are. We'd also love to hear what you're looking forward to at this event. Is there a particular session you're excited about? Is there something that you're hoping to gain from this conference? Feel free to drop that into the question box. IMMERSEcon started really as a passion project. At IMMERSE, we're dedicated to leveraging virtual reality for language education. And through our work, we've had the privilege of connecting with so many other passionate experts across industry and higher education. And these experts and practitioners are exploring the unique affordances of extended reality for education and training. But what makes extended reality such a powerful tool for learning? You probably know this if you're here in this audience, but unlike traditional digital mediums, XR really enables immersive, interactive, and deeply engaging experiences that research shows enhances retention, builds skills in real-world contexts, and pushes the boundaries of how we teach and train. So as we've traveled and connected on this last year, especially with educators, researchers, and developers, we realized that there was a need to amplify the incredible work to new audiences. And that's really what IMMERSEcon is all about. It's about bringing together researchers, practitioners, and industry learners for 2 days of learning, sharing, and inspiration. Over the next 2 days, you'll hear from leading experts through lightning talks, panel presentations, and fireside chats. You'll gain actionable insights into how XR is transforming education and training, and leave with ideas and strategies to bring back to your own organization. To kick things off, I'm excited to hand it over to Quinn Taber. Quinn is the founder and CEO of IMMERSE, and he'll be sharing some key stages of XR development, some of the major milestones that have unlocked new opportunities in this industry. After that, Dr. Tricia Thrasher will take you through some important logistics for our event, ensuring that you have all the details you need to get the most out of IMMERSEcon. Let's get started. I'll turn it over to you, Quinn.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Misty. And yeah, thank you, Dr. Tricia Thrasher. You've done a fantastic job with all the details behind this. It's great to be with each of you. I'm going to share just for maybe 10 minutes, both on, yes, like the IMMERSE journey, but much more so kind of overlaying on the unique last decade of XR's development and provide a little marketing commentary of what I'm seeing via like my pitches with venture capitalists or my presentations at Meta's offices. But before I do, let me actually start by like, hey, how did we start and what's our vision here at IMMERSE in particular before we kind of pan out to that industry level? The story starts, believe it or not in like Silicon Valley or California. It started when I was working for a large charitable foundation in the Middle East. It was 2015, 16, and 17. I just finished undergrad and then grad school and was working for a foundation doing about $40 million a year in philanthropic donations. Particularly, my focus was on the refugee crisis in places like Syria, Lebanon, even this particular photo is in Yemen in 2016, parts of Africa, and then in particular, Iraq. So I lived out there full-time for 3 years, lived with 6 Syrian refugees, only one of which spoke English. So while I was helping manage this large like charitable portfolio, I really wanted to learn Arabic. My parents, they've lived in about a dozen different countries. They speak 8 languages, but none of the Tabers spoke Arabic. So for me, like this full immersion experience, living with refugees in a refugee slum, it was a really fantastic way to immerse in the language. And so while I was experiencing that firsthand, I really just caught a vision for the power of immersion, especially as I was doing a lot of this research around like, hey, how are new technological mediums going to enhance education for the most vulnerable? That's what my job at that foundation was focused on. This is, I think I have, yeah, one more photo. This is in Iraq with some of the kind of local like refugee chieftains. And from there, catching the vision for language immersion, but at the same time, this is now 2 or 3 years into Meta having just acquired Oculus, making like big news by investing 5 and then 10 and now $18 billion a year on XR development. It was with those kind of two key pillars that I believed, wow, I'm speaking and learning a lot about language immersion, even though I have a finance background. That's what I studied in school. And VR, it's all about immersion. Like this feels like such a no-brainer. So I go in with a couple friends at the time, 2 of which that were based in Silicon Valley. Fast forward, we've raised, now I'm going to jump ahead 7 years, almost 8. We've raised almost $20 million in venture capital. Many of our first investors are these really social impact focused investors that care about, yes, the novel technology that we're building, but even more so, like, hey, how is this going to have a net benefit on society, especially for the least of these, the refugee? In fact, we had this really cool press release a couple months back that of our investor base and kind of all of the ownership of Immerse, over half of it has now been allocated to charitable foundations so that if and when one day Immerse maybe goes public or is acquired, we're not rushing to do that. But when that does occur, over half of the dollars are going to go straight back into philanthropy, helping the most vulnerable. So that's a little bit of kind of our heart at Immerse, what really drives us. But now I'll switch gears into the really unique vantage point that I've had as a XR or VR founder, realizing, and this will be kind of the crux of how I'll describe the last 7 years, not pioneering a startup, but working shoulder to shoulder with other pioneers of a new technological medium. And that is something that only happens once or twice a generation. Therefore, when I've kind of had to like lean in and say, okay, I need to upskill on this part of venture capital, this part of business formation or go to market and sales and marketing, using the examples of other maybe like SaaS, software as a service founders, doesn't apply super well because we at Immerse, and therefore if you're on this call and you're interested in XR or VR, we aren't just launching a startup that maybe has a incremental little widget that makes accounting 10% faster, helps mechanics manage their supply chain. We are in the just a part of a multi-decade technological medium that has been in the making for 30, 40 years. And I'm about to make the point that through some of these key advancements that need to take place at the hardware level with what Meta is doing and Apple and Sony and some of the others, those hardware advancements coupled with the software advancements, what Immerse does and a number of our peers, all in tandem with the frontline educators, it's that virtuous cycle that allows ultimately students to be impacted for the better, something that we really we need to stay oriented around. And I think maybe just one more little commentary before I get into like, hey, what did it look like starting Immerse in 2017? It's that I have been on so many calls, especially in the last year or two, where VCs or journalists say, Quinn, it seems like the metaverse or VR has had these fits and starts. It seems like, oh, it's in vogue and it's out of vogue. There's all this hype around the metaverse 2 years ago, and oh, it seems like it's a little bit on like a little bit of a lull right now, but it's about to come back when Apple announces their next headset. Yes, the hype cycle is a volatile like place to maybe, yeah, it's a risky place to rest your like emotional convictions in because it is up and down. But when I take into account all the behind the scenes advancements, and I'll just list a couple really quick before I get into Meta's work, just on the hardware stack, since I started Immerse, there have been so many hardware, hard science innovations that have completely changed the game that don't register on the hype cycle curve. Whether it's the like really amazing micro OLED lens technology and pancake lenses, something that's cost Meta billions of dollars and other like researchers, that's behind the scenes. Whether it's the GPU like chip architecture that's allowed far better computational per headset. There are all of these innovations at the hardware level that have made our jobs at Immerse easier. But now let me get into really kind of what I would coin the 3 or 4 eras in our last 8 years, and how Immerse, it's allowed us to pioneer into new domains. And ultimately, it'll set the stage for the rest of our day and a half, 2 days together, discussing, hey, where is this technology going? And I'll posit that for the first time in 8 years, it feels like all of the puzzle pieces are in place. So I'll go quick on this part. 2017, when we started, part of our thesis was that Meta had already been investing tens of billions of dollars, and they had pioneered the first standalone headset, meaning you don't need an expensive PC with all the tethered cords, but for $200, any educator, any end learner could buy a headset and start learning. That allowed us and some of our peers, some of these early XR educating startups and the end educator, the administrator, the university, the school, to pioneer the first cohort of both startups and end learners that proved early product market fit. It was great signals to our investors, but in that early era, everything that we knew at the time, there were less than 1 million VR headsets on Earth. Scale was impossible, but it gave us just enough to take that first step. 2020 was, like, I would say maybe the biggest inflection point over our 8 years, where Meta continued to invest really heavily. They came out with the Quest 2, which is now easily lauded as the first mass market headset. Instead of 1 million users, 20 million users. Massive logarithmic jump. With it, Facebook rebranded to Meta around that time period. And they partnered with Immerse, saying, hey, no longer are we in the prototyping, early product market fit. There are now enough users for you to launch a consumer subscription, meaning anyone, not just a school or university, anyone can sign up through the new Meta App Store and start learning French, Spanish, English. That allowed us to raise $9 million and really launch the first live classes in VR with our in-house teachers. So hopefully you can start to see okay, because Immerse was really placing its bet on a new technological medium, each of these unlocks allowed us to expand into new territory. From 2023 and 2024, with that foundation of that consumer app, we then started really hearing from Meta and a couple other key partners that, one, there was already a little hype, build and crash around words like the metaverse. Or if I were to really be candid, things like virtual real estate, NFTs, and that blockchain crypto fusion with VR. It was messy. The use case didn't provide end value to the end user, and therefore it wasn't scalable and profitable. So instead, our investors and a group of new investors said, Quinn, you need to focus on profitable, scalable models. Right as that discussion was coming to the forefront, Meta announced the Quest for Business, the first B2B platform enabling large VR deployments. So instead of just, in the early days, it was me and 1 or 2 other guys flying out to a school or driving across the state and dropping off 20 headsets ourselves, where the headsets were managed with spreadsheets and stickers. Meta said, hey, we're going to take care of that entire platform on our end, on Meta's end. That allowed us, in kind of this final bullet, to see this new partnership model with businesses and educators, schools and particularly universities, for that revenue stream to actually outpace our consumer subscription model. That was a huge inflection point for us. That, once again, wasn't possible in 2022 when it was us with spreadsheets and stickers. But now that the technological medium had taken that next major step, we were able to follow right in tow. And at the same time, a lot of my VR founder buddies were doing the exact same thing. They're like, hey, we launched the consumer app, but we're getting all this inbound interest from educators and businesses. And we need this platform to make it possible. Going to keep going quick and kind of describe what I would now really define as the current era that we're most excited about spending a lot of our own time and fundraising around, being, hey, what is the fusion of AI in this virtual world? What does that unlock? Because obviously VC investment, in AI. It reached 131 billion. That's more than every other tech segment combined. On our end, we were able to close more new capital and fundraise because we earmarked it for AI development. It's very in vogue. Yes, the hype cycle is strong, but there are real compelling use cases. I'll jump kind of back to the left side of the screen. That what has made that possible is like I spent a couple months really diving deep into AI in 2018 and again in 2020, and it wasn't viable for us to really start investing in. But with the advent of OpenAI and now Llama, Meta's internal LLM that's open source, it's entirely viable. And the cost to run AI has shrunk by 10x each of the last 3 years in a row. Really, really compelling stats. So today we're in this era where our engineers are laser focused on AI tools that will empower our instructors while simultaneously we're launching a cheaper AI only tier. So we're still staying, maybe I'll say it this way, that in this new era, we believe it is more important than ever that we stay committed to best in class 3D immersion, coupled with this new era of AI personalization, but still moored by our convictions around human connection and efficacious pedagogy. Those are the exact discussions we're having at our all hands day in and day out. And I think if I were to connect the dots and kind of conclude by saying, I am more bullish on VR today than I've ever been before because each of these puzzle pieces didn't exist even 1, 2, 3 years ago. They're all in place. And therefore, I'm most excited for Immerse, but also believing the best for the ecosystem at large that, wow, as these new hardware advances continue, it's going to benefit all of us. I'm rooting for my fellow VR educational founders that are pioneering VR for the hard sciences, for STEM, for physics and chemistry and soft skills training, because when they win, we win. Every new headset that gets deployed at a university or at an enterprise, there's now tools for us to easily integrate and say, hey, you're using VR for that use case. What if we provided the language learning element? So the puzzle pieces are exactly where I had dreamt of 6, 7, 8 years ago. And therefore, because this ecosystem, this technological medium is really reaching a new level of viability, I'm particularly excited for how Tricia and her team are framing this conference. It's no longer around Immerse just bragging about, hey, look at our accomplishments and look at our research. It's to take a step even higher and focus on, hey, how's the industry progressing? What are we learning together? Because when one of us wins, we all win. I really believe that to be true. I am really excited to take part and to listen to each of the talks after this. So thank you. Tricia, I'll hand it off to you.
So thank you both Quinn and Misty for your introductions, and thank you everyone who is joining us at IMMERSEcon this year. We're really, really excited to have you with us. My name is Tricia, and I'm the Director of Research here at IMMERSE, and I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes talking about the inspiration for our conference this year, as well as going over some conference logistics. So being a leader in VR education and advancing research on the efficacy behind VR technologies is really at the center of IMMERSE's mission. We care deeply about understanding how we can take advantage of all the affordances and benefits that VR can offer to improve learning. And we are also passionate about sharing research and best practices with the VR community at large, which is why we decided to start hosting a free online conference called IMMERSEcon dedicated to this 3 years ago. Our first IMMERSEcon in 2023 was focused on showcasing the research studies conducted by IMMERSE's research partners. So for those who do not know, over the past 3 years, IMMERSE has established partnerships with over 35 different universities from all around the world. Each of these universities has conducted studies looking at how IMMERSE and VR in general can be used to improve language learning. And these studies have really focused on a wide variety of topics. So things ranging from how VR can be used to lower foreign language anxiety and improve speaking skills, to how VR impacts vocabulary learning and retention. In 2024, we expanded IMMERSEcon to focus not only on research, but also on best pedagogical practices for teaching languages through VR. We had sessions on how to design and build educational VR experiences, how to align curriculum standards with VR lessons and activities. And we even had some of our external partners present on how they were using Immerse in their classrooms. But as Misty was saying, and Quinn as well, over the past year, we at Immerse, we've really had the chance to attend several industry events focused on the broader role of immersive technologies and AI in education. During these, we had the opportunity to meet leaders all across higher ed and industry who are using these technologies and really spearheading them in their organizations. We also had the chance to participate in numerous discussions where those at the forefront of implementing these technologies have shared their challenges and questions that they are facing, such as how do I make sure that the XR experiences I'm using with students are inclusive, and how do I actually implement XR at scale across my organization? So these conversations we've been having and the questions that have been coming up really inspired us to expand the focus of our third IMMERSEcon. This year, instead of focusing solely on language learning, our conference will focus on showcasing how immersive technologies and AI can be used across diverse subject matters. Over the course of the next 2 days, attendees will have the chance to hear from experts in XR from both higher ed and industry on how they are using XR in their organizations for education and training. So we're going to have a wide variety of talks, but we'll kick things off with a keynote by Courtney Harding on how XR can revolutionize education. So that will be coming up just after this talk here. Tomorrow, we'll have a fireside chat with Matthew Sanders, the Education and VR Director at Meta, on how Meta views the role of XR in education. And he'll also be sharing about their very, very, very recently launched product, Meta for Education, that came out this week. And also inspired by all these questions that we've heard coming up at conferences, we will also have presentations on how to actually deploy XR across your organization, how to design accessible XR experiences, and also concrete examples of how this has been done across a variety of institutions for different subjects. If you have not had a chance to check out the full schedule, you can do so at immersecon.online. I also want to highlight really quickly that we will have a demo of Immerse and a Q&A session tonight from 5:30 to 6:15 p.m. This demo is completely free to attend, but you do need to register separately to do so, which you can do on our website or by scanning the QR code here. And last but not least, a couple really quick notes on logistics. We will be using the same Zoom link that we're on right now for the entire conference, aside from that demo tonight. If you register for the demo, you will receive a separate link to join that. We will also have short breaks between presentations where we ask everyone to exit the Zoom link before rejoining at the beginning of the next webinar. And this just gives our presenters a chance to set up between sessions. And we'll also have a longer 15 to 20-minute break scheduled each day. All the presentation details can be found on our conference website. And this is a question that comes up a lot, but we will be sharing the conference recordings at the end of the conference once it has ended. If you have any questions throughout the next 2 days, please feel free to drop them in the chat and we can address them as we go along. And thank you all for joining IMMERSEcon 2025. We're really looking forward to diving into the world of XR in education over the next 2 days with all of you. And like I said, we'll be kicking things off in just 3 minutes with our keynote presentation by Courtney Harding. So we will see all of you there.